Welcome to Business Beyond Borders, the go-to podcast for CPA firms seeking transformative insights. I'm your host, Lawrence Whittam, and with each episode we'll uncover key insights, best practices, and invaluable resources tailored for CPAs. From trending strategies to diving deep into outsourcing and offshoring, our experts will help in all areas of your business.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to Business Beyond Borders. So we have a great episode today when I've got a guest, Srini, who's from GKM, who have been in the space for a number of years, I think close to 15 to 20 years now, really working with US firms. And they have a more traditional outsourcing approach in a lot of cases, but they've been through the trenches at the end of the day. I mean, they've worked with many firms over the years, right? They've seen it done well. They've seen it, I'm sure, done poorly, right? And what firms need to do to make it work. So I brought Srini on to help with that and help give some advice to the firms listening as to what they should be thinking about if they're growing a global team, and especially if they're growing that team in India. Okay. So Srini, nice to have you here. I appreciate you jumping on.
Hi, Lawrence. Nice to meet you. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. I'm Srini. I'm a chartered accountant from India. I'm a CPA in the US, and I'm one of the directors at GKM. And I'm excited to be here today and talk about one of the pressing items that businesses look to do, outsourcing, in order to scale. So whether you're an accounting firm, CPA practice, or any business that's looking to scale, one of the most important thing that businesses today or CPA firms today are doing is looking for talent outside, which is offshoring.
Now, Srini, I know you mentioned with your title, right? You are a CPA, a US licensed CPA. So can you share where you're licensed? And again, it's one of those things where we are seeing more and more of this, and then firms should be aware that again, there's a lot. It's got a lot easier now to get your CPA license from India, right? From that perspective, whereas before it was actually quite difficult to obtain the licensing. We would have a lot of candidates and team members that were chartered accountants, right? And they would have maybe even done US CPA tests, but they would not be able to actually obtain their license and things like that. So can you just share maybe a little bit around that side of things?
Absolutely, Lawrence. So I'm a CPA licensed out of Montana, and I did, in fact, finish my CPA before they started allowing you to take tests from India. So I took all my tests out of the US when I used to travel with GKM when we meet with our clients. So we make it a point to meet with all our clients at least once in 2 years in person, just to understand what their feedback is, how things are going on, and just to get an idea of how we can help them further. So during these trips is when I took my exams out of the US and I got my license subsequently.
Cool. And now GKM, tell us so that everybody knows as well, because I like to educate on how many options there are out there, right? From every outsourcing firm maybe does it a little bit differently, has a different model that they really prefer working on, right? How does GKM work, right? I know you're more of that traditional model in a lot of cases, but what are the models that firms work with you on?
Absolutely, Lawrence. So we've been in this business for the last 25 years now. And this is, in fact, our 25th year of operations in the US market, where we've been helping firms with bookkeeping, tax prep, audit, payroll taxes, sales taxes, the whole list of compliance services that any CPA firm provides to its clients, right? So how are we different from the others that are in the market? Maybe a common question that we get from a lot of the prospects or clients that we talk to. And again, so we do offer different models in which we serve our clients. It can be just a full-time resource where we give them the person becomes an integral part of the client's team, and then they work closely with the client. Or some clients, they want us to take care of the complete work that's being done, including review and everything, where we assume responsibility for the quality of work that comes back in entirety. So that's an outsourcing model too. And The other is just offshoring model where we do give them a team or a set of members who will work for the client for a specific number of hours a day, a specific number of hours a month.
Okay. Okay. So you do a dedicated model, you do a product-based model as well, where again they can provide you work, you're happy to take responsibility for the product outcome, right? And what you're giving back to them. But then they can also go the route of building out a team for themselves, right? Realistically. Now, these are all in that case as well. Like you're not an employer of record, really, though, right? You are more you still have a manager that oversees those individuals full time, right? You where do you start and where do you stop, right? Does the firm allow is the firm allowed to set their own responsibilities, their work hours, their the processes, right? And do you interfere with those types of things, or is it more controlled, right? Where you sort of control a lot of those elements. This is the time they're working. This is the time when you can interact. They can only interact from the office, for example. Like, where do you start the responsibilities, and where do you sort of advise? Where do you stop?
That's a great question, Lawrence. So there is typically a manager overseeing all of the individuals, and we typically follow the same processes that the CPA firm or the accounting firm follows. So they are more like a extension of the client's office rather than a vendor who follows our own procedure, our own protocols. So any procedure process that the CPA firm follows, we ensure that our team in-house follows the same process and procedures. And typically I do understand that there is a 12 to 13 hour time difference between US and India. And what happens is we work India hours during the day with an overlap of about 4.5 hours with the US time, where they schedule meetings with the clients, they get on Zoom calls or Teams calls with the clients, and then where they want to have some discussions, that's being done through the office. And for security reasons, we are completely working from the office, and we don't really have any work from home that we give to the employees at this point in time.
Okay, cool. So now let's talk about some of the main challenges, right, that firms typically face, right? I mean, the first being, I would say, communication, right? Now, I don't think many people are going to have an issue or a concern understanding what you're saying, right? Again, you've done a lot of US travel, right? You've talked with a lot of people over the years, right? So your accent is very easy to understand, right? I mean, my accent is hard to understand in some cases, just coming from the UK, and I get told that as well. But it's about making, again, it takes time to really get used to it, right? In a lot of cases. But where do you see, again, with the time zone differences that come up, right, with some of these language barriers, and also sort of misaligned expectations that come up with communication as well, right? We can't go up to the desk next door and ask a question in a lot of cases. You guys may not be available because you've already left for the day, right? Or again, your team may not feel comfortable reaching out because even though they're acting as an employee, it's still like a client in some cases. So they may want to talk to somebody internally first, right? Can you give some advice and solutions that maybe you guys entertain generally with your clients, and what do you advise them to do in order to sort of combat some of those concerns?
Absolutely, Lawrence. So typically what we do is, before we get on to an engagement, we set down clear procedures and processes in terms of how we work and how we function with the client, right? So what our timings are going to be, what our protocols are going to be. And then also we also give them items which may be, there may be cultural differences, right? So, or in the sense there may be different holidays. Let's say Christmas is a big holiday there, and whereas Diwali is a big one in India. So team here typically takes a few days off during this time of the year where it may be working in the US. So we make sure that we communicate all of these to the clients upfront, much ahead of time, just to make sure that we are aligned in terms of the expectations. And also, for most meetings, we generally schedule a meeting with the client ahead of time, probably a day or two in advance, so that we know that there is a call that's coming up and then we're prepared for it. And there is no such thing taken by surprise. But some clients do still want us to pick up a phone, call them, which our team does. And they get comfortable over time doing that. And we make sure that if there is any emergencies or anything that requires urgent attention, we do have a team that sits out of the US who is available during that time of the day where they can call the US office and then we get some answers across immediately.
Okay, gotcha. So a big focus on the process side of it, right? Standardizing the process, understanding expectations, right, and setting expectations, right? Now, why is it important, from your opinion, for firms to understand? You mentioned about the cultural side. You mentioned about like holidays as a simple example, right? Why is it important for firms to understand about the holidays that in India are the important ones, right? Especially if they're looking at it more from an FTE approach, right? A full-time employee approach. Why is that?
So, Lawrence, let's be honest. Outsourcing is not always smooth sailing. So there is some roughs which the firms and us we need to go through, and then the relationship becomes rock solid after that. So in order to get through that, there is going to be a certain back and forth in terms of how we do things, how the firms want us to do things, and that's one of the reasons why setting the process and aligning in terms of the process is extremely critical. And once this is done, then the culture also follows suit, and we make sure that there is clear expectation in terms of the client's expectation, and then this is being communicated to them and they are aware of what is going on and they have absolute transparency and visibility of what's going on, because they are having work done thousands of miles away. And at this point in time, trust, transparency, and clarity is extremely important to making sure that they are comfortable with the work that's being done.
So, and you start to go into the work side of things. So let's talk about quality control, right? So what's a preferred way that you would say that firms can help with quality control, right? What should their expectations be coming into this when it comes to deliverables and working with an outsourcing provider to get the best result? What should they be thinking, and what can they put in place to ensure that they have, again, more trust in that process and see good results?
Definitely, Laura. So, ideally, what I would think about is setting clear benchmarks. So that's a number one item that I would put on first, primarily because as long as the firm is clear, we are clear about what is the expectation, then that would help us to determine what the deliverables are going to be. Let's say some clients just want us to enter data on the tax return. Some clients want us to go back and forth with them 5 times, 10 times, or as long as it takes to get the return completed, where they're just going to click. They're going to send it to the client and then file the return. So it is very critical that we understand the level of detailing that's required, and also what is the measurement in which we are going to align in terms of services. So that's a very critical aspect of what we do. And one other thing is, we also, for a lot of successful relationships, what we've seen in the past, we've requested or we've had frequent feedback calls with the clients at the initial stages of the relationship, just to make sure that things are going okay and we are making sure that the alignment or the expectation of the clients are met by our team here.
So when we talk about that feedback mechanism a little bit, right? I mean, I see things in different firms. Some are very hands-on feedback in terms of most pieces of work they're giving feedback in some capacity, right? Some of it is written, some of it is, and maybe they have a standard format they do. A lot of them don't. A lot of them have more of a standard format when it comes to maybe a quarterly or yearly review with an employee, right? But can you maybe touch on that a little bit in more detail? Because I see a lot of firms struggle when it comes to that quality control piece, right? And I think a big portion of that is that feedback, mechanism. So like, what's the right way to do it? What's the right way to provide that feedback to an outsourced team member in India, right? Is it in a written fashion? Is it in a standard fashion? Is it daily? Is it weekly? Is it monthly? Like, what do you guys prefer, and have you seen the most value in doing with firms?
Lawrence, this is a very subjective item in the relationship, right? So there is, so again, some clients we have a calls. Let's say we start off a relationship, we have every calls every week. So that will be something that we prefer. But some clients are just busy and they just want to do a monthly call. So in the monthly call, they make sure that we get the feedback for the entire month, and so that may be very detailed. Some clients do not want to get on calls, but give us very extensive written feedback. That also helps a lot. So any form of feedback is good feedback, and we think that as long as the feedback is provided, that kind of gives us the opportunity to align ourselves with the expectation of the firms. So this way, what happens is there is no expectation mismatch after a certain point in time that we come across as negative.
Now, do you see it as, and again, from the way that you guys work, do you prefer to receive the feedback as a management group, as essentially? Like, so for example, let's say you're in connection with one of your clients, right? You'd prefer receiving that feedback directly for your team, right? And then you're able to relay it across to your team? Or do you want them to, in a lot of cases, give individualized feedback directly to their team members? What do you see as the better option at an early stage, right? And then until they get used to things, like what's the best way that you've seen?
So at the management level, we are all very hands-on, and all of us coming from an accounting background, we understand what is going on, and we do understand the technicality of the subject as well. So when there is a feedback in the initial days, even at the management level, a lot of us discuss what's going on, and then we pass it on to the team along with a proposed corrective action and a preventive action, just to make sure that same feedback, which if it's negative, does not happen again, and it gets fixed at the for immediate level itself without recurring in the future.
So now let's touch on something a little bit different, right? And I think firms have seen this more recently, especially when it comes to India, right? Is rising cost, right, in hiring team members, retaining team members, and also just across the board. I think in the accounting field there has been a rising salaries, right? There's been an increased demand, right? There's different reasons for that. The economy in India is doing very well and growing, right? So what expectations should firms have now, right, compared to 5-10 years ago, right? From a price perspective, right? What do those types of things look like, right? What is the most beneficial stuff to be done offshore now when it comes to India, and where should they be doing still data entry type activities? Should they be doing more really training and making sure they're doing higher level activities? Like, what does GKM advise?
So, Lawrence, so typically you would have, I'm sure that there is a huge pipeline shortage of accountants in the US, and the number of people going to school to become a CPA has reduced significantly, as that was the primary theme of some of the conferences last year. And so in India, it's the other way around. So we've been getting a lot of accountant students coming into the accounting industry of late. And there is also a lot of interest in the global accounting practice, which is the outsourcing or onshoring practice, where there are very qualified people who are able to come and take care of a lot of responsibilities and roles. So what happens is, earlier, about 10 years back, it was all just about data entry and basic first level of work, operational work, that was said to be outsourced to India, where we get it done. But today, even though that is there, there is a lot of scope for higher value add services too, which are being provided or outsourced. So basically, firms just not, they don't have to do a lot of work that they do currently. Instead of doing the work that are paying the bills for them, they can outsource all of that to a company in India or other parts of the world, and they can focus on higher value add services at their end. So that gives them the scope to do that. But again, there is to what level of higher value add services, if you ask, again, that's depending on what the firm does, and they can outsource most of the work that they do today.
And what do you see in the future, right? I mean, the way things are heading, right? And again, I'm very familiar, but not everybody listening is very familiar with the accounting market, right? When it comes to India and the talent available, and how many candidates are coming in the market, right? What the options are for them as well. So I think the outsourcing world has become very popular in India as a career opportunity, right, for firms, especially in that accounting side. It is now we see more CPA firms building their own offshore global delivery centers directly, right? In some cases as well, there are opportunities there. And then there's the traditional, like, Indian chartered accounting firm working for businesses in India, right? So there are lots of more opportunities popping up, and I see outsourcing being a very popular one for candidates in the accounting field. What about the future? I mean, I've seen it firsthand of salaries increasing, right, quite drastically, especially over COVID. Have things settled down a little bit now, and it's a bit more consistent? And again, there's still generally increments and stuff, but it's not as big a jumps year to year. Do we still see that those big jumps and spikes in salary expectations? Like, what are you seeing?
Lawrence, I think both during COVID, this was a very critical aspect of the on the employment side. But post COVID, I think right now, I think it has settled down a little bit. Although, especially with a lot of senior folks coming into the market and into the accounting fields, the salaries do go up, but the jumps are not as high as it used to be about 2 3 years ago, where it was more than 2x, 3x, or 4x.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And then, and to wrap up, I think maybe from a culture perspective, I mean, what should firms consider if they're going to go to India, if they're going to work with any provider, if it's a GKM, for example, like, what should firms be thinking about culturally, right? Whether it's the business culture in India, whether it's personal culture, whether it's more on those holiday side of things, whether it's activities to make sure their team is, again, happy with where they're working. How much involvement, investment should they be thinking about as a firm coming to an organization like yourself, right? Should they be quite hands-off with that and leave it up to GKM to do? Or should they be involved with that so that, again, they understand why? Right, and those types of concepts. What approach do you guys take?
So, Lawrence, I wouldn't say they would need to be overly cautious about it, but at the same time, they may just need to have it at the back of their mind, because, like, simple things like in terms of holidays or things like that. But again, as far as the day-to-day work is concerned, it's pretty much similar to what they would do to any employee who works from home. So it's going to be as simple as that. And the other aspects may not be as critical in terms of what they should be knowing or what they should be aware of or what they should do in terms of the operations.
So, and again, GKM, a bit more of a managed approach in the sense of focus on the work, focus on deliverables, right, from your side, focus on those aspects and the technical aspects, right? Let GKM help in understanding that culture and managing the team and making sure that, again, we're retaining them, we're doing the right things for the people here, right? We can happy to tell you about it, right? But you don't need to worry about it.
Absolutely.
Is that correct? Cool. So tell us where. I really appreciate you jumping on, Srini. Tell everybody where they can find you, okay? And we'll post it in the intro and things like that as well. But what's the best place for them to reach you and or GKM directly?
Absolutely, Lawrence. So you can visit us at gkmtax.com. So that's our website, and we would love to schedule a call and take the conversation forward to see how we could help you out. And just to conclude, outsourcing is no longer about cutting costs, it's about creating a strategic advantage to scale.
Correct. 100% agreed on that. So appreciate it and thank you, everybody. I hope you enjoyed today's session. As mentioned, like GKM, great option in the market. They are more of that managed approach to that extent. They've got different options. They've been around for a while, right? You don't have to worry about a lot of the intricacies when you're dealing with firms like GKM, right? And there's lots of other providers similar to them, right? They're providing more of that support for you, right? If you don't want to focus on those other aspects and have the headaches of the employee side of it and the extra culture involvement, this firm could be more fitting for you compared to doing like an employer of record model or anything else, right? So I appreciate Srini jumping on, and I hope everybody had a great episode on Business Beyond Borders, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Business Beyond Borders. I'm Lawrence Whittam, and it's been a pleasure bringing you impactful insights tailored for the modern CPA firm. Remember, the world of accounting is vast and ever evolving, and we're here to navigate it together. For more resources and episodes, don't forget to subscribe and reach out to our experts. Until next time, keep pushing the boundaries of your business and explore the limitless possibilities beyond borders.